What's going on, guys? My name is Arrow, and in today's video, everything is green because we are doing poison. Get ready for a super tanky Herald of Agony Trickster. Stay tuned. So I'm going to try something a little bit different here because I think this fight really exemplifies the strength of this build. So you'll see that we have 229% increased quantity of items found in the area because we are taking all of the Maven nodes on the Atlas passive tree. That includes Height of Hubris, which doubles the effective modifiers, and that's really important here because we've chosen some of the most difficult mods that we could possibly choose for this build, and we still are able to do this fight with relative ease. So we have 88% more monster life, so almost double life. We have monsters fire 4 additional projectiles, which is chaos. It's just projectiles all over the screen. You can see the Hydra right there firing. I don't even know how many projectiles from his bow. We have 200 Fizz's extra lightning, 200%, which, you know, would give huge shocks. That's a crazy mod. We have reduce effect of non-curse auras, 120% reduced effect. So you can see our discipline is giving us no extra ES. Our auras are effectively shut off by that mod. And then lastly, the most important one is players have 120% less life and ES recovery rate, which means we have no regen, we have no recharge, and we have no leech. So the only way I can recover ES on this build is with on-hit effect from Discipline. So we get, I think, 28 or so from the Watcher's Eye. And we die, I think, once in this fight, and honestly, it was avoidable. I'm just blown away by how well this build can do pretty much any of the content in the game, and with relative ease. This was probably the hardest fight that I could have created. I guess if I got all these mods on the Feared, that would have been more difficult, but it was just a stroke of luck that I hit these, and I thought, okay, let's try it, let's see how we do. And we only had one death that was avoidable. Now there's a little bit of skill involved here with dodging and things, but yeah, just incredibly powerful. All right, let's talk about the layers of defense that we have stacked onto this build. We have 100% spell suppression with 66% reduction of spell damage, most you can get. We have chaos immunity from CI. We have over 8,000 energy shield. We have evasion cap, which is 95%. We have full elemental ailment avoidance. We have Heartstopper for massive mitigation of hits and dots half the time each. And we manually dodge because our Herald of Agony is doing all of our damage. We have several other sources of less damage taken and things as well. This build is so tanky. I had an absolute blast playing it. It was a decent mapper, but a very good bosser. Completely trivialized all of the non-Uber bosses and then killed, I think, all of the Uber bosses or most of the Uber bosses. And that's with me. I'm terrible at them. I always die. And I did a couple of them deathless with this build. It was really strong. So let's just dive right into the build and explain how it works. And we can get you out the door and playing this build as soon as possible. All right, let's go through the gear really quick. So we have a fancy foil. I got one with intimidate enemies on hit on it. It was very cheap, I think like 10C. And then I just spammed for minions deal increased damage and attack speed. Fire damage doesn't matter. Then after that, you can multi-mod to get hits cannot be evaded, so you don't have to get any sort of accuracy on your gear, and then trigger a socketed spell every 8 seconds. The reason that we use this is because we cast a couple of things automatically that are really good for us. Summon Holy Relic spawns Holy Relics, which will cast an aura, essentially, that gives you life regen. We convert with Zealot's Oath that life regen into ES regen, which is very strong. On top of that, we have Divergent Purifying Flame, which also gets cast on the ground. It gives us a Consecrated Ground, which heals us as well as a regen. And it also applies increased damage taken to enemies from the Divergent version. So that's the sword. Very straightforward and easy to craft. Just use minion damage essences until you hit a good attack speed. The helmet, you need the mana reservation efficiency. The mana cost of attacks is really nice to keep our Lancing Steel costs really far down so you can spam it as fast as you want. We basically are just getting energy shield here and intelligence and res. Very easy. Crafted this myself. Was super cheap. Cost me a couple essences. The shield, again, you want energy shield, +1 chaos is really nice. And then the max res is just a bonus. We definitely don't need max res on this build, but any sort of max res you get is always going to be a nice defense. The amulet, we have +1 fizz and then just some energy shield and stats. I eventually wanted to take this into betrayal and turn it into a talisman. I never got around to doing that, but that's what I was planning on doing. But this by itself, not expensive. Again, just +1. Minimum endurance charge is just nice to have. This ring is a bunch of res. We needed the dex and ES. Nothing special here. The Circle of Nostalgia, very strong. Increased damage for the Agony Crawler and mana reservation efficiency. Both of these, I would say, are mandatory, but these rings are very cheap. The gloves, rage on hit, super nice to allow you to attack faster as you're fighting either in a map or a boss. The faster you attack, the easier it is to keep up your stacks of virulence, which we will get to. Chance to poison, mandatory. We don't get to 100%, but you don't need to. You just need to get close because you hit so much that you don't have to be at 100% poison chance. And then as far as the affixes, just energy shield and resists. Nothing special. For the boots, we wanted to get ailment avoidance. So we have 35% and 26% on the implicit. So we ended up with a full elemental ailment avoidance on this build, which is so strong and really just makes things feel a lot nicer. And then besides that, just some movement speed. The onslaught doesn't count because we don't kill. And energy shield, intelligence. Again, very straightforward. We're just trying to get lots of intelligence and energy shield to build up our pool. We have 8,300 here. The belt, pretty straightforward. This is a 2C belt. You put some nice jewels in it, ones that have energy shield, increased damage for minions if you've dealt, or if you've used a minion skill recently, excuse me, and then chance to poison enemies on hit for minions is very important. You want to get your minion poison chance up to 100 because all of your minion damage is going to be coming from the poisons. That's why we have these in our belt, because they're our best jewels. So this belt multiplies the effect of the jewels by 75%. So you have 15% chance to poison here, 15 here, that's 30. Multiply that by 75%, and you get somewhere in the realm of 50 something poison chance just from our belt. Very, very strong. Let's dive into the jewels, the gems that we use. We talked about these already. For our helmet, we have Enlighten, Grace, Discipline, and then we're also using Convocation just to get our minion to come back to us. We have Urgent Order Support, or Increased Duration, and Enduring Cry, because we use this chest, Call to Arms, so we can constantly have Enduring Cry up. So when we walk around, we are casting every some number of seconds Enduring Cry, and we are keeping up full uptime of our endurance charges. Very, very strong. The chest, which we did not talk about, I'll talk about right now. Skin of the Lords, super strong. Call to Arms is not mandatory, but it's really nice to have this 3-link setup of Enduring Cry for just huge, huge bonuses. And then increased global defenses for our evasion and energy shield, so good. +2 for our Herald of Agony, incredible. So you really can't beat this chest, but you don't need Call to Arms. Let's keep going through the gems. In our boots, we have a Frostblink, and then we have a 3-link cast when damage taken with Cold Snap and Immortal Call. Cold Snap gives us frenzy charges, and then Immortal Call gives us bigger benefits from having endurance charges. In our gloves, this is our 4-link setup that we use for keeping up virulence on enemies. Lancing Steel, if you use the anomalous version, it gives you increased range, GMP, and reduced mana cost for this skill, which is really nice if you get the anomalous version. Faster attacks and Divergent Withering Touch. This keeps our withering stacks on enemies at max at all times. It's so, so nice to have. So a quick explanation. When you cast Lancing Steel, costs 3 mana, it casts a bunch of times. It's not just one attack per time. So you really can put this down and you use your Call of Steel to get all your blades back. You can see up here we have 12. You can cast it once, you can cast it this way, you can cast it this way, and they keep attacking. It's so, so strong. It's probably the best way to keep up virulence stacks, in my opinion. Also allows you to use a sword, which enables some different things. Now onto our 6-link in our chest. We have Divergent Herald of Agony, which is poison chance, so we can keep our virulence up. We then have a Empower, which goes to level 6. So our Divergent Herald of Agony is actually level 32, which is a little bit of overkill, but I found it super easy to get it that high. Awaken Void Manipulation at level 7, which is great. Awaken Minion Damage at level 7, also very nice. Awaken Unbound Ailments at level 7. The Skin of the Lords is just really, really good for the gem levels. And then Awaken Vicious Projectiles at level 7. Also, you're going to want to swap in Anomalous Pierce for Awaken Vicious Projectiles for mapping. If you don't have Pierce, it's going to feel terrible to map with. So I use Anomalous because it gives more Pierce, so pretty much just pierces everything on the screen. Highly, highly recommend that. And then for bosses, Awaken Vicious Projectiles is just a ridiculous amount of more damage. This setup ends up giving us over 10 million damage per second. Full uptime because we do not need to stand still and attack. So the meat of this build, the core of this build, is this right here, Pure Agony. Pure Agony gives us +5 maximum virulence and increased damage for minions while you're affected by a Herald, which is all the time. So we use Pure Agony here, we use it here, 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 and here. That is 5 Pure Agonies. And that gets us to 65 maximum virulence, which we easily keep up with our Lancing Steel. This gives our crawler so much damage, and these really are not that expensive to buy or craft yourself. So what else are we using? Fuel the Fight. That allows us to leech mana for when we're attacking. Veteran Defender, just a really nice all-around node to have. Attributes, resists, and defenses from your shield. There's not a lot of good things on large clusters for us, so these two are really good. We actually went with a 5 passive voices, which is about 40 chaos, because I couldn't even think of something else to use here. And this allows us to use an extra medium. So we don't get anything from the voices in here. It's not a large cluster, a traditional large cluster, but that it does allow us to use 3 mediums. One of our mediums is a megalomaniac, which has elegant form. Elegant form gives us 10% spell suppress and 20% chance to avoid elemental ailments. Those both help us reach the cap. If you don't want to go for elemental ailment avoidance, which you really don't need to do, you can drop this and just grab another pure agony and cult leader, or you can go for a regular large cluster. The golden rule is really important. It allows us to reflect poisons to ourself, which normally would not be a good thing. 1, we're CI, so it doesn't affect us. But 2, every time you poison an enemy and it reflects to you, that counts as 2 poisons. So for the sake of getting virulence stacks, you get twice as many per second by having this jewel. So get a nice implicit on it, and there you go. Our Watcher's Eye, really, really important. Evade hits while affected by Grace. This helps us get to the cap. We're at 94 and 95%. And then Energy Shield per enemy hit while affected by Discipline means when you get hit, if you attack and then move and your Lancing Steel is still firing projectiles, you're still getting healed by that. It is so, so nice, especially in those like 4-way invitations. You can just run around, drop a few of those things, and you're getting healed by your Lancing Steel while you run around. As far as Ghastly Eye Jewels, things that are really nice to have, regen while moving, that's super strong because that life regen gets turned into ES regen. Minion poison chance, you gotta have that. Energy shield, minion accuracy rating. I got some dexterity on this because I needed it. And then you can get flat damage for your minions if you want, but it's not mandatory. Here we go, Born in the Shadows. This is very exciting. Born in the Shadows gives you cannot be blinded, which isn't really important. It gives you blind enemies on hit, and nearby enemies are blinded. So pretty much everything on the screen is always going to be blind, which means they have less of a chance to hit you, and therefore you are more easily reaching the evade chance cap. And then more importantly, 15% reduced damage taken from blinded enemies, which are almost all enemies. So it's just another layer of defense that this build gets to allow you to stay alive just about at all times. Amanamu's Gaze gives you dot multi for each Ghastly Eye Jewel that you have. You can have up to 5 Ghastly Eye Jewels that will affect this. So I would say not mandatory, but it's too strong not to use. Lord of Steel. For Lord of Steel, get the increased use speed, and then I would get something like Corrupted Blood on top of it. And that is it for our jewels. As far as the tree goes, we take some things like the Shield Mastery to make sure that we get LE Ailment Avoid capped. You want to get Sovereignty over here and Influence to make sure we can get all of our auras in. We talked about the clusters. Zealot's Oath is important to make sure that we convert our life regen to ES regen because we have a lot of that. We take Ghost Dance because we have huge amounts of evasion, and it allows us to basically recover massive amounts of ES when we get hit, which is actually not very often. We come down here. I know this pathing looks terrible, but we do want to get Inveterate. And then we grab CI here. There's not too much to talk about on the tree. It's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, you can ask me down in the comments below. For Flasks, you want to get a Quartz Flask for phasing. Phasing is really important on a build where you use either totems or minions, because you're going to throw down your totem or your minions, or you're going to attack a little bit with for your Herald of Agony, and then you're going to move, and you want to be able to freely move among enemies while your totems, minions, etc. do the damage for you. We use a Witchfire Brew for more evasion, and the Despair Curse, very nice. You do have to be relatively close to the enemy for this to work, but I didn't find it to be a problem. The Silver Flask gives us Onslaught because we don't kill, so it's hard to get otherwise. And then we have reduced effective curses on our Move Speed Flask, and more increased evasion from a Jade Flask with an evasion suffix. Guys, this build is awesome. I had a ton of fun playing it. If you are looking for an all-content build, especially one that can do Uber bosses, I highly, highly recommend this. I don't know what the cost of this build is, but I can promise you that you can get it going for 10 divines. You could probably even league start this. It's super, super strong. I'm going to look into possibly making a league start version of this for next league. League start testing is going to be starting in the next couple of weeks. So come check out the YouTube or the Twitch to see what's going on there. That's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Go and check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/AER0__. I appreciate you all so much for all the support. Thank you. And as always, take care.